of how the world works. How does it manage invisibility? How does it manage sentience? What kind of structure does it have? There are reasons to be dismissive of all sorts of crazy ideas in that family that don't involve simplicity. They just involve the sort of ground level implausibility of those views.
Perfect conditions.
Okay, I want to hold this, but also want to introduce
give me the
idea two, the less controversial response. Panpsychist says it's simpler not to have a kind of a
Battleship. Milton Bradley's great game of strategy. It's loaded with action and suspense. Play it anytime, anywhere.
B4. Hit. J1. Commit. J10. Oh, you sound like Battleship.
Battleship. A game of strategy from Milton Bradley.
But what do you think of the, again...
Okay, right. I think factory farming, modern industrialized farming is an abomination. It's one of the worst things that humans do. The cases of chickens and pigs I think of as the clearest cases, the really the standout cases.
Yeah.
And that's something I think we should just work strenuously towards reforming.
Do you boycott the pigs and the chickens?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a vegetarian. I think that there are forms of humane farming of beef that I feel quite fine about.
So you keep the chickens and pigs, you don't eat them, but just the beef?
Right, basically. Yeah. At home I eat quite a lot of humanely farmed beef. I get some of it.
What's humanely farmed beef?
There's a farm not far from where I live where I know the lives. I talk to the farmer about the lives of these cows, and they just hang out with their friends all day, basically. And they have a bad day at the end, especially because in Australia right now, on-farm slaughter is becoming more and more difficult. So the trucks are involved at the end, and that's very unfortunate. But what I regard as best practice in the beef case is you have minimal intervention, you don't separate families more than you have to, the animals just hang out. They're not taken to a feedlot to be grain finished, to use the American expression. And ideally they would be slaughtered on site. And the upshot of that is an animal has not just a decent life, but an enviable life, I think, from the point of view of non-human animals looking across the history of non-human life. I feel quite fine about that.
Even with the slaughter itself, because we know that the slaughter is going to be very painful for the animals. 1 in 3.
Well, not if it's done properly. I mean, I think the practices are often now very bad.
You'll be interested to know this, that in the Journal of Meat Science, they found that 1 in 3 penetrative stun bolts needs to be retaken, 1 in 7 when they're non-penetrative. And so given the fact that a third of the stun bolts to the head aren't successful, that you have up 30% in the cases of penetrative, we're talking 1 in 7 when it comes to non-penetrative, and those animals have been carved up alive, and that's from a Journal of Meat Science, straight from the animal's mouth. So the worry is
very bad.
The worry is not have it at all, right? Because you support this. I'm not trying to. I'm wondering, because you said the animals don't to be separated more than they need to, but they don't need to anyway, and they don't need to be.
That's actually not true, because
can I have one thing to load it? One very brief.
Okay.
The argument that so this is the argument that the larger argument, right? That if having blissful life and then painless killing is a good, then that justifies such things as, I like having puppies, I raise these puppies up to a year, and then I bullet to the back of the head, they're dead, it's not painless. But they have blissful lives for a year, but we both agree that would be wrong.
I'm not going to discuss either the human analogy or the companion animal analogy. Now, if we had a longer conversation, we could talk about why I want to sort of handle them one by one. But in relation to the farming case, when you say, the farmer knew my place, it doesn't separate them more than strictly necessary, and you say, well, they needn't be separated at all. One has to keep in mind that if not for the practice of humane beef farming that this farmer is engaged in, it's not that these animals would have some pleasant, indefinitely long life. They wouldn't exist. There's no place for them. outside of a system like
My
this.
worry here is that the WWF.
So I think that's very important.
Just
that we're talking about a distinction between
Peter, to put it politely,
a happy life and non-existence. We're not talking about a contrast between a kind of
no, but you know the
sanctuary.
response. The WWF and the UN have found that 75% of all animal extinction across the board is because of agricultural practices. And you yourself love the animal kingdom. You're interested in conscious creatures. And we went from being 1% of the global population of biomass to 99%. And what's happened there is the deforestation, is the dead lands, is the...
I'm questioning the figures a little bit, but I'm on board with the message. There's a chapter about
it kills
this
other
in
animals,
my most recent book. So I think the extent of the human domination of the animal kingdom in the form of agriculture, intervention, just our physical presence is not desirable. It's not a good thing. We should have a lighter touch. I think rewilding is an admirable project. I distinguish this from the question of whether humane farming humane farming, which includes the killing of animals, is always a kind of a very bad thing. There I want to sort of push back. And it's not a defense of factory farming, it's not a defense of the excesses that production line methods of slaughter have. It's not a defense of feedlots and all the rest of it. It's also not a defense of the fact that vast amounts of forest are being cut down in order to sort of graze ever more cattle. Not a defense of any of those things.
It's indefensible.
But I will defend the practice of humane farming of various kinds.
Let me ask you one very brief question on this, is that you argued that these cows' lives wouldn't be there to begin with. We both agree that the agricultural industry drives wildlife extinction. And I wonder, personally or morally, whatever it is, you have the choice between having 100 cows or 100 animals of different species of similar complexity. I think it might be a human end. I'm not sure how to pin it, but I do think there's value in the diversity of species. And that I'd prefer to have 100 different species of singular entities than 100 cows. Would you agree with that?
I don't think we have to choose. The life of a traditionally farmed, domesticated animal that's treated well and with respect. It's not a bad life, and it's not a bad thing to have in the world. I want the world to be also full of leopards and wolves and giraffes and all the rest of them, 100%. But you don't have to choose.
The reason I was asking was not really because we have to make that choice, and I think there is a choice to be made in terms of animal agriculture and its impact on the environment and the wildlife that's there as well. I do think the death is...
I kind of personally like it, so I'll give you that.
Here's the scrabble.
It's not that I think the perspective I have in which the avoidance of cruelty, the avoidance of harmful industrialized farming is paramount, but humane farming is regarded as okay. It's not that I see that as superior to the vegan outlook. I think it's defensible against many other outlooks. And it's true that, my own body has a role in my thinking here. When I've moved towards veganism in the past, it's been something of a disaster for my health. I'm a high-protein person, I think, now, inevitably. And in order to get the amounts of protein that keep me healthy in a vegan manner, I've found it difficult, I have to say. Given that, I think eating oysters, free-range eggs, some dairy, though I think dairy is very problematic.
We're getting in the weeds here, right? The dairy and the separation, the male chicks being killed for the eggs.
Right. I think that there are defensible